Next, another project. I'm not going to say the next project. This is my utility box. This really has not been one of the good ideas. I'm kind of in remedial mode lately. I'm looking at all the things that really didn't work so well, kind of thing. Biggest problem is that because it wasn't insulated and it's not heated, when it gets cold, the pumps freeze. Okay. Could solve that, but it's just not a good system, right? So in the winter, like now, I just leave the pumps turned off. Okay. And also electricity is coming through here, which is a really good idea. Let's run, two-phase power from the solar system right through underneath the pumps. Yeah, good thinking. I did that just before I built the house. And it kind of made sense in that context, kind of explain why. Because I'm like, all right, so I already had some of this system. In fact, yeah, I could go back a couple of years and think about all the stupid things I've done out here lately. Every time I've put the solar panel somewhere, they ended up being in the way of the next project that I hadn't really thought of yet. So those panels were exactly where the house is now, one of the times, right? I've moved the panels about 4 times and I still really don't like them there because in the morning the sun is they're shadowed, right? Because they're in line with the house and the house faces east. So the first hour of the morning, it takes about an hour before the sun hits these. The rest of the day it's completely fine. But the first hour when you're usually out of power, yeah. So anyway, we'll go back to that. But the idea was, I thought, well, let me put the battery box over here, put the generator next to it. That actually works pretty well because then I can feed the generator into the battery box. The inverters and the battery are there and the charge controllers. That's all close to the solar panels. So then we run two-phase. It's not quite two-phase, but I got a red and a black coming out of there on 10 gauge wire, like 30 amp or something like that, right? That comes to the house, goes to the breaker box. It's not quite two-phase because I'm running it off of a single inverter usually, but when I run the generator, I am running two-phase. So the red and the black are separated. Okay, so by doing it that way, the generator feeds into a junction box in the utility or in the battery box, and I can move cords back and forth between that and the inverters. So the same system feeds to the breaker box. Okay, so that part worked. And you're not supposed to keep your lead acid batteries in the house because hydrogen gas. Okay, I have before had batteries boil over when I was charging them because they weren't matched. And so the charger, that mark on the bumper, all that weird rusty looking stuff, that's where the acid bubbled out of the batteries because I had set them inside the door there. And so when they bubbled over, all that just poured out, burned the bumper. Yeah, so it's a real thing. Anyway, so putting them over there, far enough away, when I was going to build the house, at least they weren't going to be in the way. And I had always thought about moving it closer after, but then I dug the trenches, buried everything nice and neat, so it's, you don't have wires running everywhere. So that part worked. But yeah, I'm kind of like, well, I could do better, I think now, if I think about it. So there's a possibility, if I ever do get around to doing the thing that, 3/4 of the people said I should have done in the first place, like that metal roofing I've got. If I put a roof over the bus, it would be much cooler in there. I spend a lot of time in the bus because there's some days it's just nicer to sit in the bus than in the house. I've got all the windows in the bus. Okay. So I did a lot of the writing for the books in the bus. But in the summer, it's going to be just too hot. Okay. So eventually, if I decide, if I get that far, corrugated metal roofing, roof over the bus. Then, at least some of the panels on top of the bus, getting them up off the ground will keep them cleaner because down so close to the ground, they get really dusty. However, they're easy to clean down here. That random time where the snow sticks to the panels, if they were on the roof, I wouldn't even bother going up there. I would just wait a couple days for it to melt and fall off. Here, I can just walk around with the broom and knock it off real quick. So you kind of like, well, that's a dumb idea, but sometimes it works kind of thing. Anyway, so probably, backing up again, probably what I'm going to do is the utility box is going to go away. But I haven't decided what sequence yet, okay? If I take the utility box out, I would probably put the pumps either in the house, which is a little bit heated sometimes, or in the bus. If I put them in the bus, I could insulate a box and keep a little heater in there on frost guard and keep them from freezing, or put heat tape around everything and just run it once in a while. If I do that, I might also move the batteries back to the bus, because then I could put the batteries and the water pump in the same insulated box and keep them both from freezing. And the inverter gives off a little bit of heat, so it could almost self-heat itself. And then in the summer, just open up a vent and let the hot air come out. Okay. And if it's batteries, you would vent them anyway. Okay. So that's something to think about, but I haven't quite committed to it yet. So I guess that's about all. I was just kind of wanted to check in, show you a little bit of what I'm working on out here. It hasn't seemed like I've had a big project, so I haven't felt like making a video, but it's all the little stuff that adds up. So just want to let you know I'm still out here. Thanks for all your support. I do appreciate you. And if you got an idea, go do it. Don't wait for it, because you never know. Cool. I'm going to go take a shower. I'm stinky. All right, bye for now.